Hello and welcome back to RBL, and look at this amazing cottage. We're in the depths of Cornwall in December again. Yes, I always choose my time wisely, but more importantly, look at what we got this time. It's a new 911 Carrera S. It literally had 500 miles on the clock. It's now got about 1,000. So I've been learning all about this car for the past week and it's proving pretty epic. So let me talk you through it. I'll apologise in advance. It is filthy. Trust me, getting down here, it was filthier than about 5 miles. So there's no way to keep this thing clean. So it's going to be a dirty video. This is the shiny new model, but this came with, obviously the Carrera S has quite a few extras on it, but this one also had additional sports chrono packs, got the PDK bit, gearbox, sports exhaust, etc, etc. So I'll give you a quick run through. This has obviously your Porsche Xenon, very nice, very bright, very effective adaptive lights, and they look really, really cool and they're awesome. The auto feature though, a little bit sketchy. Sometimes works, sometimes not so much. So as you can see, it's got the red calipers, so it's the standard brakes, which is fine for normal road driving. So it's not the yellows with the carbon. But to be honest, don't think you need it unless you're going on track. And it's got some really, really nice, these are actually not filthy, these are anthracite. Yes, they're a bit dirty, but the anthracite alloys goes really, really nicely with the grey paint. And shod in some P0s, they're pretty sticky, 20s on the front, 21s on the back, some serious rubber, some serious wheels. So I'm always a little bit nervous about curbing, especially around here with the potholes and everything else. But yeah, I think really set this colour off. Now obviously you've got your typical 911 shape. However, I personally thought, and still think a little bit, the back end's a little bit bulbous and fussy. However, living with it for a few days, it's growing on me. I think it's much more attractive than I first did. And this here, I really like this light here. I think that looks cool at night. As you can see, this is the overall exhaust, so this is sports exhaust. So you should get quad pipes as standard on this, and then you upgrade to the sports exhaust. Now, it does sound good. It does improve the sound, but from the cabin, I'd like it to be a little bit more vocal. But I like the look of it. Really do like the back end now. Not quite as fussy as I first thought. It's grown on me significantly. So that's a quick overview of the outside, but at the end of the day, it's obvious it's a 911. It's still retained that shape, that style. I love it. I think it looks in this color with these wheels, I think it looks awesome. I really do think it suits the car. And yes, it is wider. It is a bigger car. You do notice it when you're threading it down the B roads. However, if you compare it to other modern cars, it's not that big and it's not actually that long, but it's also extremely practical. But more importantly, what's it like to drive? Right, let's give you a quick run through on the cabin. So we have your typical Porsche steering wheel. This is the relatively basic one, so nothing fancy, but you can get your inserts changed. Different stitching, leather, blah, blah, blah. It's not bad. It's quite a good wheel. Nice feel to it. I would have expected a tiny bit thicker, but it's about right. No, it's good. It's good. Down here, you have your driving mode selector. So you can go from wet through to Sport Plus. You got your digital dash. Nicely, though, you've got this analog rev counter here, and then the rest is digital. You now have the new, bigger 12-inch touchscreen, all very nice, all your entertainment, etc. Let's put this on. There you go. We can actually change things to turn your exhaust on, adjust your spoiler. Well, it's all automatic, start-stop chassis, which is basically stiff or soft, and then your driver mode. But to be honest, that all comes on using this anyway. And you've got your switch gear here, so you don't really need this for setting the car up as such, but it's good for your infotainment. Having said that, there is a drawback. The Apple Play has been hit or miss. It either works really, really well or is useless, and the connectivity is a disaster, and then just never connects. So I would be a little bit annoyed with 120 grand's worth of car to have Apple Play drop out as much as it does. But you have got sat nav and everything else in its own right. All in all, it's a 12-speed system. It's pretty good. I was expecting a little bit more oomph, but it is pretty good. As you can see here, this signifies it's got the Sports Chrono Pack, which means you're getting a bit more performance, as mentioned. You've got your nice, obviously you've got your gear selector here. You've got your temperature controls, again, stereo, etc, etc. Buttons for your sunroof. This one has a sunroof, very nice. Heated seats. Yeah, and then you've got your park and brake here, but you've also got park here. And then there's your manual override there, so you can start getting on with the paddle shifts, which is tucked away here. I'd have liked a little bit bigger. Paddle shifts are a tiny bit too small. Should have extended up a bit more, I think, especially when you're cornering, give you a little bit more play. The dash, I'll turn that off just to show you what it's like when you turn it on. There you go, lovely. Very nice, lots of bells and whistles. And then you have got some adjustment here as well. So you've got you can change the screen slightly, so you can have your nav in there, or you can just have that as another, or a speedo, although you've got it in the big dial here. And then also you can have this, so you can have sat nav, or you can have, you know, tripometer, then you've got your useful information, or you can simplify that down. There you go, much more simplified dash. Yeah, it all works well. There's not loads of options on it, but it's got a few options that are handy. Yeah, can't fault it really. Dash display is very good. Infotainment system, in my opinion, should be a bit better for the money. But all in all, a nice place to be. Seats are very comfortable. Everything's in easy reach. You're getting a really, really good, awesome driving position. So yeah, really good. Nice place to be. Porsche's nailed it again. Just a few little things that they should, I think, improve on for the money. So it's all very well the car looking the part, but does it live up to those looks and the price tag, more importantly? So we're in a slightly damp Cornwall, and it's basically been damp the whole time. So the driving experience has been interesting. So we're not going to get any blistering performance tests, but what we are going to get is more of a real world test for UK roads, which is quite often damp and a bit of a mess. So in some respects this is a better test, because everybody hacks around in dry conditions on track, but do they really go into the depths of Cornwall in the winter? So really I'm doing this, I'm taking one for the team, because I can't really put the power down, but is it practical? And the answer is yeah, pretty much. It's really good. The biggest drawback is the width. It's a big car. Threading it down to twisty B roads can be a little bit clenchy bum time on some of these roads, but when we're on the A39 like now, a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, and the car just soaks it up really well. It's a very smooth, comfortable place to be. You know, you've got this wide track, wheelbase, etc. It makes it quite a comfortable cruiser. Driving down the motorways, cruising along, absolutely brilliant. Yes, you've got to accept it's a little bit more rigid because of the nature of the car. You've got some wide rubber, you've got some low profile tyres, you've got some more suspension. This does have the adaptive suspension, but to be honest, you don't really notice a major softening when it's not on. But it's not uncomfortable. So you know it's firm, but I've never felt any real discomfort. You get the odd judder and shimmy if you come across a really, really bad bit of tarmac. But overall, yeah, really nice and comfortable. In these conditions, it's been a really nice car to come back to then drive back in and feel very safe and sure-footed. At the end of the day, looking at a performance car, it is a 911 after all, and it's supposed to be able to handle. So yes, it can be a little bit stiff, but that's because it needs to be able to drive and be driven. And it's impressive. I've had the chance now on a couple of very brief dry spells to thread it down some nice roads, and it does drive really well. It's got a shed load of grip. Now this, as mentioned, is the rear-wheel drive version, but it's still got plenty of grip. It can, however, be a little bit twitchy in the damp, as I found out. If you put your foot down, that torque is coming in very low down, so the back end will kick out. So I'm not going to get carried away in these kind of conditions. But in the dry, the car really does just put the power down and go, and it really goes. So yeah, handling, grip is amazing. The poise of the car is really good. The only thing is, it is typical 911. I had a 996 a long time ago, and what I find is still got the characteristic, which is I notice a slight, almost fidgety front end, just very slight bobbliness to it. But I remember that from the 996. Once you get used to it, and you know that there's nothing wrong with that, it's fine, and you dial it out very, very quickly in your mind. It's just that initial first couple of drives, I kind of forgot all about it, and it just reminded me, and that characteristic is still there. And you can tell it's just, obviously you've got the engine slung out back, and nothing over the front axle. So it's, it's a strange, I think, 911 characteristic that they've dialed out very, very well, but it's still there. And in some respects, I kind of like that, because it's what a 911 is. But the steering, really nice, really precise. But again, I just think because of that slightly light front end, you get a tiny bit of play, very, very fractional. But again, you work around it, but you can sort of, it's very nice, nicely weighted steering. You know exactly where you place the car. There's no lack of feel or anything. I find it's really, really good. With supercar performance, you need supercar brakes. Now this hasn't got the carbon ceramics, to be honest, unless you're going on track. For the cost of them, I'm not sure it warrants it. And these brakes are pretty solid, they're good. Now initially, I had to dial into it because they felt a tiny bit like unresponsive initially. And I think all it is, you've just got a little bit of travel, but when you actually properly stand on them, they have got some serious power. And now I'm used to it compared to another car, so of course it takes a couple of drives to get used to it. Now I'm dialed in, the brakes are really good, they're really sharp. I just find you've got to stand on them a little bit more initially than I thought, to actually get them to start to bite. So with that, you can actually meter it out quite nicely. So you can just take a nice casual, like I am, threading it through a rather twisty B road at the moment, and taking it easy, so you don't need to be aggressive on the brakes. So a nice little soft touch, it's fine. But when you do stand on them, they do actually, you're in your seatbelt, and you are kind of being flung forward. So yeah, you can get quite a nice balanced driving style. So you can be super cool, super casual, or you can get quite aggressive, and the brakes will respond accordingly. So we finally have some sun in a week. This is the first glimmer of sun. The road's still a bit damp, but I was going to talk about performance. Unfortunately, I'm now on motorway, so I can't hammer it because I don't lose my license. So I'm not on some nice A road where I can thread it through. But anyway, let's quickly talk about this. So this is a 3-litre twin turbo 6-cylinder with the Sport Chrono Pack. So it's good for 440 brake, or just over, and 530 Nm of torque. And you can feel every ounce of it. It is a very, very quick car. And you'd expect it from 911, but is it a little bit lazy? Is it a bit lethargic? No, it's definitely not. It is, yes, I've gone on about it being a GT car, but it's still very much supercar performance. 3.5 to 60, I can believe that. 191 miles an hour, absolutely. And I wouldn't be surprised if the figures are slightly fudged and it could be quick still. I've not been able to hook it up on a good launch because of the conditions, but I can believe that it can do everything they say on the tin. Now, it is a turbo engine, but I don't really notice it. I've not noticed any lag with the PDK gearbox, the 8-speed gearbox, which is brilliant. I don't notice any issues at all. I don't notice any lag at all. It literally kicks down and goes in overtake mode. This car is like a missile. It just absolutely flies. Yeah, it's this really, what Porsche have done with this is amazing. They've got this so it's cruising along, very comfortable, very GT car-esque, and then you put your foot down and it feels like a supercar. It's blindingly quick and blindingly capable. I love it. The engine is absolutely superb, and I think it suits this car perfectly. It's just such a good all-rounder with sheer performance if you need it. Now, the only slight drawback on that is the miles per gallon are pretty poor. Driving around the Cornish roads, it has been a bit of a mess. I think we were getting about 16, 17 miles to the gallon. It wasn't great. Now, I've had a longer journey since. We're still averaging about 25 miles to the gallon. I've spent a lot of time in the garage, a ridiculous amount. So literally every day. You put 30, 40 quid in, you're back in the next day. It's not great. I was expecting more. Yes, if you really did do a steady cruise, you'd be around about the 30 miles to the gallon. But for sort of everyday driving and having a bit of fun, you're going to be in the teens. And I don't know. I know, look, you got to, at the end of the day, it's an expensive car. It does 3.5 to 60. It can do 190 miles an hour. This is a ridiculously quick car. So you've got to expect you're going to use some fuel. I just would have thought when you are cruising and when you are taking it easy, and because of the weather and the conditions, I haven't had a great opportunity to really thrash it around. The economy has still been pretty dire, really. I'd have expected more, let's put it that way. But getting away from the negative of fuel economy, getting back to the positive, brilliant engine, amazing amount of performance, absolutely superb. Just pulling out the way of a police car there. Yeah, absolutely just cracking car. Can't fault it. The engine, I think, is perfect for the 911, in my opinion. Sadly, this is the final journey for me in this car. I'm returning it, and as fate would have it, I've had the car for a week. It has done nothing but rain and been gale force winds, and now on my return journey, the sun is shining, the tarmac is drying out. That just about sums it up, really, doesn't it? So I've not truly been able to get a feel for the outright performance of this car. Just the conditions haven't lent themselves, and now I'm cruising along the M25, so that's never going to happen. However, it does also give me a different view. So it's all very well going out and thrashing a car around on nice, dry, sunny days with perfect conditions or on a dry track. But actually, the 911 has always Porsche's always pitched it as the, you know, the everyday supercar. And driving it in really poor, some of the most horrendous conditions. Apart from snow, you couldn't have really had much worse. We had trees falling on other people's cars, everything. It was carnage. And we're down Cornwall, which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's a lot of very narrow B roads, lots of high hedgerows, potholes, naff conditions, lunatic drivers, etc. So this is a big, or I should say wide, expensive car, and I think in some respects it was more of a thorough test for what a 911 is capable of than what most people use it for. And I can happily report that it really is the everyday supercar. You know, I've only had a week in the car, but I have managed to do about 600-700 miles, you know, but from that experience and that time in the car, it's been immense. I really do think it's an incredible bit of kit. I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. I love this sort of GT-esque feel initially with a supercar lying there in wait whenever you need it. It's just absolutely brilliant. Well done, Porsche. Love it. If I had the money, I would definitely have one. Although this does also make me realise just how much fun and how good and how much I want something like a GT3 or a GT3 RS. I can only begin to imagine just how good they are. So if you're in the market for a performance car, a GT car, an everyday car, and a supercar, and you have deep enough pockets, buy a 911. This car has been an absolute peach. It is gorgeous. I love it. I love everything about it. I can't fault it. That's it. I'm going to really miss it. And I think when you really miss a car, that sums up everything about that car. Absolutely superb. Would love to get your thoughts and feedback. If you've got one, if you had one long term, love to know how you're getting on with it. Give us your feedback, pop a comment, let us know how you're getting on with it, what you think of it. Does it sort of tick all the boxes for you as well? Love to know your thoughts. Please give us a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Helps grow the channel. And hopefully I can actually start to bring you some more interesting stuff with some more cars like this. And ultimately, the aim is to get one with a rather large spoiler on the back. I'm Tim, this is RBL. Thanks for watching.